there's been a lot of questions as to whether there was foreign government involvement.
In which one?
In the assassination of Charlie Kirk, right?
Okay.
So like we're going to address these theories right now. Back during the ICE riots, do you remember all of that at the beginning of the year?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people were like, where are all of a sudden these big violent riots coming from? Who's funding these organizations? We found out that there was a foreign funding tied to an individual by the name of Neville Singham, who's a multi-billionaire. And he made his billions by working with the communist Chinese government. And he would take, and he's not a registered agent, a foreign agent, which is a FARA violation. So he's taking these millions, funneling it into organizations like the Party of Socialism and Liberation, who then in turn create these very radicalized movements, but they're not even American in theory or funded by American people. They're actually funded by foreign governments. The irony in all this is that Neville Singham, not just to Mamdani's election, so like Jews from Mamdani, but he actually also has ties to funding the Party of Socialism, the Salt Lake City queer group, which is now being investigated with former knowledge on whether or not they knew Charlie would be assassinated, who had ties to the shooter. So I do think that there's a foreign funding tie, but the question is which government, and I think it's tied to the Chinese.
Interesting.
What was
it called? The queer what?
Salt Lake City Queers.
Salt Lake City Queers.
They're being investigated by the FBI. But if you look at the organization and where the funding comes from, I mean, not just them, they had ties to groups in Cuba and they are actually calling themselves terrorists. But not just that, they also have ties to the United Nations. So there's this aspect of a very pro-globalist and then a pro-Marxist movement to really sow discord and divide in this country. And that's why I recently posted on my social media, I was like, check out the bot farms that actually exist. And when you see all this shit talking on Twitter, make sure you're not arguing with the bot, because that's not like a fake thing. It happens. And so we have to realize that social media is being used to kind of stoke this divide. But in the instance of the shooter, Charlie Kirk was almost like a son to President Trump. Don Jr. will tell you was like his little brother.
Right.
Very close to J.D. Vance, very close to Kash Patel. So if you think for a second that there will be any amount of resource spared in his investigation, you're wrong. Because I know these people and I've seen the way that this administration has worked towards at least issuing some of the darkest secrets. For example, what happened with CIA and the connection to JFK's assassination. I've met with the director, but to, I think, really take into account that you have the family that is seeing all this stuff out there right now. I hope that they get every single person involved. I definitely think that it's likely that more than one person knew about what was happening, because the Salt Lake City queer group immediately deleted their page. They're under investigation. There's a foreign funding tie there. For Tyler Robinson to say that Charlie was, hateful and that he just wanted to eliminate his hatefulness, where does that come from, right? Like if you actually listen to the things that Charlie was saying and you don't clip it, you can realize it was a very logical conversation that he was trying to have. If you don't agree with it, it's still not a reason to murder someone.
Right. Well, I think the problem is people have valid questions about the narrative that was immediately projected out into the media. That obviously, if anyone with half of a brain can see that there are massive holes in it. There's big questions. There's the things like the Discord thing where Discord came out and like denied it. There's like the rhetoric.
They're being subpoenaed too, by the way, to go testify before Congress. So they're going to be coming to testify before the Oversight Committee. Yeah.
And then like the way he wrote the messages, which doesn't seem like something a 20-year-old would write. There's the whole history between him and his boyfriend and like the weird love letter he wrote to him detailing everything he was going to do. There was the video of him getting pulled over by the cops, which didn't seem to like match up with the way he was using his language there. The Dairy Queen casually getting an ice cream. If you're a sociopath, maybe that's a normal thing. There's just so many strange things happening with, even the guy, I don't know. I've been following the whole Candace Owens thing. I've been trying to follow. Have you paid attention to what she's been doing?
I haven't seen too much of it.
So she's dropping these videos every day that get 5 million views in like 24 hours. It's insane. And she's talking to all these people that were involved in it, politicians running around Utah, and they all have different stories. It's all super strange.
Well, the good news is that the trial should be public. So that'll all come out in Discovery.
Oh, that would be nice. Unlike the Epstein trial.
I'm a huge fan and just direct transparency, but you have to understand too that there's an open investigation into this. So if you have the FBI investigating Salt Lake City queers, foreign funding ties, multiple people under investigation, they're not going to be able to give that stuff immediately, but you should be able to see it and it's all going to come out in discovery because they have a full-fledged trial. So I think a lot of those questions will be answered. But either which way, I mean, the reaction of a group of people, even people in Washington, to the assassination of another American was really disgusting to watch in real time.
Yeah.
And it was even more disgusting to see that people, instead of saying like, hey, this was like another American that got shot, they're trying to justify it. And then when people were basically held accountable to their employers, like, hey, this is not like, if you are representing a company, right? You probably shouldn't be like saying, great, kill his wife next. And that's what some people were saying. I actually worked with some of these different social media companies, and I was like, hey, there's photoshopped images of children with blood splatter on their face saying Charlie's kids are next. Do you think that this is against your terms and conditions? And I will say to even the attorneys over at Blue Sky, which is a left-wing version of Twitter, they're like, this is not what our platform is supposed to be used for. And so when people violate the terms and conditions of usage, we're going to delete the stuff. So that's not necessarily cancel culture. That's just, hey, you guys have terms and conditions you agree to. And by the way, you probably shouldn't be calling for the assassination of his children.
Right. Totally. I totally agree with you on everything
That's like
you
a very
just said.
common sense thing.
Totally. And the question is, when it comes to free speech online on these platforms, which are public utilities, where do you draw the line? You know,
I think they have terms and conditions. I actually sued Twitter 1.0. I don't know if you know that.
Did you really?
Yeah, during my election. This is before it really became a thing in 2020 with kicking Trump and deplatforming him. So I was throttled on my engagement on X, and they were shadow banning me on Facebook as well. So I couldn't actually get my message out there, even to fundraise and all of that. And
What
so
year was this?
This was in 2020 when I first ran.
Okay.
And so I had sued them. And the thing is that so social media is considered, I consider it a public utility, but there is stuff with Section 230 that Congress, I don't think, is ever going to want to reform, because a lot of people in Congress are owned by some of these tech people. And it gives certain protections to these tech companies. But at the end of the day, these companies, when you agree to use them, there are still terms and conditions, right? Like, you can't go into a crowded theater and yell fire. So if you are saying that, let's call for example, the public assassination of the president, you can't do that.
Right.
You can't do that because there are people that will actually engage in that act. Now, there's a big difference between like what is considered hate speech, and I think that that's a very slippery slope.
Yes.
So terms and conditions, what the company then puts it out there for, if you use our app, then this is the code of conduct you're expected with the company. Way different than, you know, deeming something as hate speech and then moving from that, which I would argue can be very slippery slope dystopian in form.